Ladies and gentlemen, how is everyone doing today? We have a big fish today. We have a very big fish. We have the one and only Coach Dr. Larry Brooks in the house. He's in the house, guys. He is in the house. And listen, Coach Randy Brooks, I don't say this about a lot of people, but Coach Randy Brooks brings it. You know, they said a man is judged by his attention to detail. A man is judged by his attention to detail. And let me tell you about Coach Randy. When you listen to his voicemail is profound in and of itself. That says a lot about someone. Now, he's a professor. He's an author. He's an international consultant. He is an engineer, a chemical engineer. He studies philosophy. He is one of the most brilliant and most sought after thought leaders in America today. We have the plum pleasing pleasure and the privilege to have him. And he's going to shed some knowledge on us. He's going to drop some bombs on us, rhetorical bombs, I should say. And and this is going to be a great time. Coach, doctor, professor, it's a pleasure to have you.
Brother Gibson, it is my pleasure to be with you. I count it an honor just to be in your presence, all the great things you've done, the people you've been with. Listen, I'm just a little country boy trying just to make it and just hanging on to your coattails, but that's just the tip of the iceberg, as it were, because great people know other great people. And sir, thank you for your accolades, but you, sir, doubly that, triple that. You've done what you say others are doing, and that's rare. That is indeed rare.
Well, I'm just like I said, I'm just grateful to know you, and I know that you have had an exciting and excitable career. I always like to start off with people's native stories. You know, I'm big into comics. So, you know, Spider-Man got bit and turned into Spider-Man, and, you know, Superman had all those family issues, and then he turned into Superman trying to solve the world's problems, and Batman had his whole Genesis story. What is your story? Where did it all start for you, Doc?
If you're ever familiar with a little place in Virginia, now I know you know it, because it's world renowned. It's a place called Callao, Virginia. Callao. Now people look at it and they say, Callao? I say, oh no, that's not how you pronounce it. It's Callao. It's like you go to New Orleans and they say, no, it's New Orleans. So that's, it started down in a place called Callao, Virginia, a little small country, agricultural, fish town. The population of the entire high school, or the graduating, or the year I graduated, was 172 people in the entire school.
Wow.
My graduating class was, I think, maybe about 40 to 45, 47 people, somewhere in there. So I grew up in a very rural area. My genesis started way back then. I'm glad you asked. There's a defining moment, I believe, in everyone's life. I grew up very quiet. I grew up very calm. As a matter of fact, I almost didn't grow up, Gibson. I'm premature. I was a 7-month baby. And my mom says that when I was born, I was 2 pounds and 3 ounces. Did not almost live. She carried me around for several months on a pillow because my bones hadn't formed yet.
Wow.
And as you can look in this video and see, I'm a little bit more than 2 pounds and 3 ounces now. Some days I wish to go back there, but I was quiet. I'm one of 5 kids. And with that, we learned how to maneuver, learned how to take instruction We learned how to be subservient to adults. And so I didn't say a lot. I didn't do a lot. So people who see me now or hear me now from my past, they go, you're not the same guy, because I didn't say a lot. Writing more than 10 or 15 or 20 words, that was a long essay for me.
Wow.
And now I've written 3 books and spoken around the world, and have met kings and queens, and I've met potentates and ambassadors, and I've met the common man as well. But I was on this football field playing football because I wanted to do something athletic. And I was not well liked with the football players. Do you know why?
Why?
I'm glad you asked me. Because I was smart. I made A's and B's. And so they called me a nerd. And then I was not liked with we call it debater club. Debater club is all of those studious people who made A's and B's in school. And I was on that, and they didn't like me. Do you know why?
Why?
Because I was athletic. So I had to walk a very, very tight line. So even though I achieved a lot, my self-esteem, Brother Sylvestre, was very, very low. And one day I'm out on the practice field with football, and the coach called a play, and I'm a middle linebacker, and they throw it out into what we call the flats. That's out by the safety behind me. And the guy catches the ball, and I'm thinking, no, you're not going to make a touchdown on us. And so we're practicing. So I turn around and I start sprinting, and I'm running as hard as I can. And I catch this guy on the 2-yard line, and I drop him. Now back then, this is the early 70s, 71. His cleats came up. They were metal cleats, not these little phony plastic things that they wear today. These were real cleats made of metal, spikes. And it came up and it hit me right in the chin and almost knocked me out. And for a second, I really didn't know where I was. So I finally got up, and I'm walking back to the huddle for the next play. And I'm really hurting a little bit, and I'm winded. And the coach looks at me and he says, "Brooks, you okay?" I say, "Yeah, coach, I'm good. I'm good." He said, "You want me to take you out?" I said, "No, sir. No, sir." He looks at the offensive team. He says, "You see that? Brooks is not the most talented player we have on this team." I'm thinking, if he's trying to compliment me, that's not too good. He said, "Brooks is not the strongest player on the team." I said, "Where is coach going with this? I mean, I'm dying over here." He said, "But Brooks has more heart than any of you. He plays, and he plays with abandon."
Wow.
And Brother Sylvestre, that's the very first time in my life. I was 16 years old. That's another man, a man, you know what I'm talking about? A man that you respect, had paid me a compliment, had told me I could do something better and be something better than I was. Because my dad never told me that. My Sunday school teacher never told me that. My preacher never told me that.
Wow.
Coach James Long poured it, and he was making a coach's statement. I'm sure that's what it was. But to me, it meant life. It meant breath. And some 50 years later, right now, I still hold on to those words that he said to me.
Wow.
So much so that they impacted me. I called him 2 years ago. Thank God he was still living.
Wow.
I called the school. He had long since retired, and I said who I was. And they said, "Oh, yeah, we remember you." I said, "May I get Coach Long's phone number, please? I just need to speak with him. It's a matter of urgent importance." And they gave it. They said, "Well," I said, "I can't discuss it with you." And so they didn't know. Of course, I introduced myself as Dr. Randy Brooks. That helped him up. So I called him. He answered. I said, "Coach Long, this is Randolph." He said, "Brooks?" I said, "Yes, sir." He says, "What can I do for you, young man?" I said, "I just need to say thank you, sir. I never told you when I was in school, and I never told you after I went to college, but I've become successful, and a good bit of that is due to you and what you said to me on the field. I'm sure you don't even remember it. He says, "Oh, yeah, I do." He said, "You were one of the special ones." I said, "But no, sir. I was just one of the." He says, "No, you had a lot of heart, Brooks. I remember you. And I coached a lot of young men after you, and I talk about you." I said, "Really?" And then I said, "Well, that meant a lot to me, and it helped me go to college because I was going to go to the military or just go get a job right out of school. But I decided to go to college after that." I said, "I even played football in college." I said, "Coach Long, do you know what? I even qualified as an alternate for the 1976 Olympics." He said, "Really?" I said, "Because you poured something into me that day that no one else had. And since then, other people have built on it. But you, sir, were the first one."
He
And
built the foundation. Wow, what a story. And Coach Randy, you have that impact on other people. You've mentored a lot of people that have gone on to be successful. So I just think it's like each one teach one, because I hear stories of people that you have helped out and people that you have coached and people that you have encouraged and people that you have motivated. And so it's almost like a line of succession. Now, I want to ask you, you talked about sports just now. Tell me, how have you used sports to teach in your companies, in life, and because it's been often said that sports is like a microcosm of life. If you can get along in sports, you can get along with anything. You can find, there's just about any adversity you have in real life, you find in sports. So how have you used sports as a tool or as a strategic tool to teach others and to help corporations?
sports is integral in anyone's life, whether they're athletic, whether they play sports, or they just are a participant in watching sports. They still are sports minded. Let me say this. In sports, you are taught to play hurt. In sports, there's a certain discipline. Uh, I have to practice every day. I talked early about practicing. That was a practice. That was not the game. We practiced 3, 4 times a week. We played the game one time. Playing the game was easy.
Mm.
Practicing was hard every day, in the rain, in the snow, when it's cold, when it's hot, when you're cramping. So sports teaches you to go beyond your limits. No one in life ever achieved anything in a comfort zone, or if they did, it didn't last.
Mm.
Sports taught me, and I help teach others by go beyond where you think you can. You can be better than you think you are. You are more than enough. However, you're a team also. Even when you are a single-minded sports, like let's say Venus Williams, we look at her and she's out there by herself. We look at a Tiger Woods or Phil Mickelson, they're by themselves hitting that ball. No, 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 no. They're a team. They may be the point person, but there's a coach behind them. There are trainers behind them. There are cheerleaders behind them. There are mentors behind them. You see, everything involves a team, whether it's a team on the field or a team off of the field. And that's what life is. My team on the field is you and me. You and me, Brother Sylvestre, we're the team.
Amen.
We've got people producing this video. They're behind the camera. They're part of our team. We've got people that are sending the emails to you and to me to keep us on time. They're part of the team. We've got drivers getting equipment from one place to another to make sure things come off right. They're part of the team. See, life is a team sport. It's not an individual accolade. And when we get there, we don't get there by ourselves.
That is so true. Wow. Wow. I think all we need to do at this point is just to give the benediction right there.
Pass the plate. I'm a preacher. Pass the plate.
Let me ask you this. How would you describe yourself in one sentence?
quiet, unassuming, thoughtful, but always ready to make a point or to serve someone.
Profound, profound. And I divide your career into two different stints. One, I would say, is the more corporate side of things, and the other one, I would say, is the more entrepreneurial. So, which one do you want to tackle first? You want to go the entrepreneurial or the corporate?
Let's go corporate.
Okay. So, how did you start? Like, how did you begin in the corporation part? Because, and the reason I'm asking this is because there's a lot of young people of various backgrounds, some minority, some majority culture, but they just want to figure out, because it's been often said that we don't get a manual when it comes to life. We just are born here. We have people that guide us, but there's no real manual. How did you start in the corporate world?
Well, that's a good part, and it's a good segue. You saying we don't get a manual. My start was when I was in college, and I graduated from college. I wanted to play in the NFL, and so I went out for an NFL team, and I lasted 2 weeks before I got cut.
Wow.
And I didn't get cut because I wasn't good. I didn't get cut because I could play. I found out that football, especially the NFL football, was a business. The defensive coach called me into the office. He said, "Brooks, we'd love to have you. Man, you have spirit if you have nothing else." And I said, "Thank you, coach." And I'm thinking, man, I'm going to make the team. But he didn't start out that way. He said, "We'd love to keep you." I said, "What's up, coach?" He says, "You didn't come from a big school." My school was a very, very small school, my college. He said, "We've got two other players vying for middle linebacker on this team. One is from the University of Oklahoma." Okay. He said, "The other one is from Penn State." Okay. He said, "Both those schools can fill out stadiums." I said, "I got you, coach." He said, "Go find something that you can do well at, but this won't be it." So I needed a job. Man, I needed a job. I didn't have a manual. So
What year was this? Approximately what year?
this is in 1976.
Wow.
And I was qualified. I qualified for the Olympics. I thought that was going to be my thing, but I was an alternate, which means I wasn't on the first team because I was self-trained. Part of that story with Coach Long, I would go after school over to the University of Richmond every day and run on the track, 100 meters, 200 meters. I just do drills all day. And I was gifted with speed. But I've also found out there was a technique in running. You see, when I grew up, I only ran because I was fast. No, there's also a technique. And why I didn't make the first team Olympic team is we got into the starting blocks, and there was a young man who did make the Olympic team and got a gold medal. His name was Ivory Crockett and Edwin Moses. And I'm in the starting blocks with these guys, and they take off, and I take off with them, and it's a false start. And as we're walking back to the blocks, they look at me and say, "You know, this the next false start, you're disqualified." And I'm going, "Man, you guys are, that's not right. That's just not right." So we get into the blocks again, and I'm waiting for the gun to go off. And I said, "Make sure you do not false start, Brooks. Make sure you do not false start, Brooks. I am focused. I am lasering in." And it's mark, set, and off we go. And I'm running as hard as I can. And I'm putting them up and picking one down, and we're moving down this track, and 100 meters is coming up, and I see the finish line, and we are getting there, and I am on their shoulders. They are nationally ranked, and here I am. I'm right there. I'm going to beat them. Cross the finish line. I come in second. Oh, man. but I gave it my all. And looking at that, they told me that your starting block was off. Your stride didn't match the length I had set between the starting blocks, because I did this a technique. Life, Brother Gibson, is a technique.
Wow.
We just don't run this thing. We got to say, what is my purpose? Where am I? Corporately, AT&T hired me, and it was doing affirmative action. 1976, I get hired by AT&T. I am the first African-American national account manager that they hired in the United States.
Wow.
And so I start that career, and I developed that career. And at the end of it, I managed over 13 states in the eastern part of the United States. I achieved more than 150% of my objective. I became one of the corporate trainers for AT&T. I went all over the country in a couple of parts. I went in a couple of other countries throughout the world for them. And I learned I had some abilities and some thoughts, and I could get results. See, result-oriented is about where we are. And that's what life is. It's result. Everybody wants good results. Everybody. From the criminal.
How long did you stay with AT&T?
I stayed with AT&T for 13 years. I went to them and only was going to stay there a couple of years, but 13 years later, I'm leaving.
And what did you do after that?
After that, I became a senior vice president of a chemical company, and I worked for them for about 7 years, and started one of the customers at that time and said, you know, you can do this for yourself. I said, no, I'm kind of a support guy. I'm like the best supporting actor. They go, no, you're very good. And so that's when I started my own company 7 years after that. So like people are looking for a manual. If you add it up, you do 13 and you do 7, that's 20 years. That's a career for somebody. A career. Now I'm starting my company at the end of that. So you see, it was something very, very useful to me to not worry about time element. So to the young people out there looking for a manual, to the middle-aged people out there having not made the right decision or the best decision, and to the senior people out there, not old, I called you senior. And to the senior people out there, it's never too early to start, and it's never too late to start. Just put your foot in gear and move forward. Don't worry about a manual. There will be other people around, like Gibson Sylvestre, like Coach Randy Brooks, who will be in your corner helping you get there. But you've got to make the first step. Because a wise man once said, the journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step.
Profound, profound. So it seems like your life was being guided, and you got this customer that said, hey, you should go out. You should venture out into your own. And what did you actually do after that?
I started my own company, Brooks & Brooks Services. There's a chemical industry in the chemical industry where we do commercial water treatment, cathodic and anodic protection. Say what? Yeah. Cathodic protection is stopping the cathodes. Anodic is the negative anodes that affect metallurgy. In other words, metallurgy, now you may know it as rust. So in water treatment, boilers, cooling towers, plate and frame heat exchangers, they use water to produce electricity, heat, air conditioning, those types of things. And water on metal surfaces causes rust. Well, my job is to slow down that rust process, because this equipment is very expensive, hundreds of thousands and sometimes millions of dollars worth of equipment. The typical lifespan for this equipment is 15 to 17 years. Using chemicals and the right chemicals and the right analogy, I can make that equipment last 25 to 30 years. Now,
Wow.
exponentially, if you extrapolate that out, I've saved you about $100, $200, $300, $500,000 over the life of that equipment because you didn't have to replace it. So you're paying me for my brain to help you keep that equipment running. Much like somebody would take an old car that you're ready to trade in, and they fix the motor up, and they put not new tires, but they put used tires on it, and they find some tape, and they tape up the manifold, and they keep that car running for you another 3-4 years past its life expectancy. They've saved you money. So I went into a business of saving people money, but that's not really the business I was in, Gibson. You know what business I was in? I was in the business of becoming a value-added resource. And that's the business we're all in. My chemical business, to my customers, I became valuable asset to them. And if that meant save them money, if that meant help them hire new people, if that meant make the equipment run longer, whatever it was and whatever it took, that's what I became for that customer. I told them, put your problems on me and I'll solve them. And you can fire me at any time I don't. And they said, well, I said, fire me. If I mess up, you can fire me. But I got one condition on before you fire me, though. That's why I say, give me just one chance to fix it. I will never blame anyone. I'll squarely take all accountability. And this is what we need to do today in life, is take accountability. I said, I'll take accountability, but give me one chance to fix it. And if I don't fix it, fire me, go get someone else. And I think I've lost one customer in 35 years. And that wasn't from me not fixing it. That dude just didn't like me.
Wow. Wow. And did you start this company from scratch?
I started from scratch, from crawling, from grabbing, from pulling and tugging.
Did anybody help you? Did anybody help you?
Say again?
Did anybody help you?
Oh, I had multiple tools. Let me tell you a story, a quick story if I can.
Okay.
People said they were in the garage or basement of their home. I didn't have a house. I had a townhouse, 3-level townhouse up in the northeast part of Virginia and Maryland. And so you had basements there. Literally, I started in the basement of my house. But you know how I started? Every day, I dressed just like this. I woke up in the morning. I'd take my shower and shave and eat breakfast. I'd put on my suit, my tie, and I'd go to the basement of the house like I was going to the office of Saks Fifth Avenue. Because I was in the mindset of doing business. So one day, I'm by myself and I need some business, and I call on the power company, Potomac Electric and Power Company, Pepco, up in the Washington, D.C. area. It's in the middle of winter. And this guy said, we are out of electricity at the power plant because we can't produce any water because the water lines are frozen. I said, okay. He says, what can you do for me? I said, give me an hour and I'll call you back. I called around every place I knew, and I found a place down by the Norfolk Naval Base. It was a portable water tanker. And I said, can you provide me 7 of these? Here's my credit card. They said, we can. They said, but we can't get to you. I said, why? They said, snowing. These trucks are tens of thousands of pounds heavy. I go, yeah. I said, we're not going to put our truck drivers on the highway. We don't care about what water they need. We need to be safe. I said, hold that thought. So then I called the Virginia State Police. And I called the Maryland State Police. Where did these thoughts come from? They came directly from the creator. I call it a direct download because they didn't teach me this in business school, Brother Gibson. So I called the Virginia State Police and I said, sir, here's who I am. I've got a power company that tens of thousands of people are going to be out of electricity if I can't get them water. I've got water in Norfolk, Virginia. That's 4 hours away from them. It's got to come across the Virginia state line into the Maryland state line. Can you give them an escort so they can get here safe? We can do that. That's part of our civic duty. So I called Maryland. I said, hi, this is I didn't have my doctorate. I said, this is Randy Brooks. I've just spoken to the commandant at the Virginia State Police, and I've got an escort. Now, they hadn't left.
Wow.
They're on the way from Norfolk to Maryland, and they're heading to Pepco. I need you to meet them at the Virginia-Maryland line. Can you do that? And you take the escort the rest of the way to Pepco power plant. We can do that. I said, give me the numbers and coordinate. I called the water company back. I said, put your truck drivers in. State police are on the way. When you get to Virginia line, Maryland police will pick it up and you'll get there. So then I called the customer back after all this, hoping he'd still say yes. I said, I have the water on the way. It'll be there. Just clear them. I have 2 state police organizations getting the water there. And he said to me, no one would have ever thought about that. No one would have done that. And to this day, I still do business with them. And he became one of my largest mentors. This was a contracting officer for the power plant, just an employee. But he became a powerful mentor to me because he knew people in high places. He knew other companies and other contracting officers in high places. And that's one of my success stories that was very early on. It didn't make me $1 million, but it did put me on the map as being a problem solver. Yeah. And that's what I do, Gibson. I solve problems.
You know, it reminds me of a story I heard of a man who had some issues with his plumbing. And so he calls the plumber. The plumber comes over and came to find out he had a missing screw. So the plumber replaces the screw, hands the man the bill. It'll be $600. The man said, how is it going to be $600? The plumber looks at the man and said, look, the screw itself is only worth about 5 cents, but the knowledge to know which screw to replace is worth the money that I'm charging you. So what you are is you're a strategic problem solver. You're a strategic thinker. And I think that is what's needed. And you've demonstrated that you've helped companies solve problems. Why? Because you think outside of the box. You think outside of the box. And that's very, 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 very important. So you started off with AT&T, one of the first African-American account executive holders. Then you started your own company. And do you still own that company now, or are you planning to sell it? What's your thing right now with the company?
I currently still own it, but I'm in process of selling it so that I can do what I'm doing with you full time. Awesome. So the last 35 years, I've developed Brooks & Brooks Services. You can look them up online and see all the things wonderful things they've done. But right now, we're talking about purpose. Remember, I said early on, people must find their purpose. When I was younger, that was my purpose. See, purpose, we have seasons in life. A wise man called Solomon said there's a time to weep and there's a time to laugh. There's a time to sow and there's a time to reap. There are different seasons in our life, and that was my season then. My season now is to help other people get going. I could lay back on my laurels, as they say, as my dad used to say, and not hit a stitch for the rest of my life, and I'd be okay. I tried that during the COVID for about one day. And I said, man, I got to do something. I just can't sit around. There's not enough golf to be played. There's not enough food to be eaten. There's not enough fast cars to drive. I've got to do something. See, the Creator endows us with a purpose that leaves a void. And the void in me is always having to do something, always helping someone, moving forward, because I myself am a product of being helped. You see, I didn't get here by myself. It's Coach Long and a million other people in between then and now that have helped me define who I am, help me along the way, encourage me. And so I'm remiss if I sit back on my laurels and don't do anything. I've got to, as they say, pay it forward.
I've heard a very wise man said, he said, if you see a turtle on a fence post, know that it received help getting there.
That's
And
right.
if we're honest with ourselves, we received a lot of help. Now, what has been the greatest obstacle of your life, and how did you overcome that obstacle?
I'm still overcoming that obstacle. I'm not gonna. I don't. I know you interview potentates and kings and presidents and preachers of mammoth degrees, sir. I am an African American male. That's my largest obstacle, and I haven't overcome that because I looked in the mirror this morning, Brother Gibson, as I was shaving for this interview, and I'm still an African American male. Listen, I say that in jest, but I also say it in truth because this country is a great country. It's the only one I've ever known and the only one I've ever been a citizen of. But it has its ills and it has its woes and it has its problems. So I'm still overcoming that. When I started my company 30 plus years ago, that was difficult. Young Black men and women didn't start companies back then, at least in the chemical industry. That was unheard of. When I went out to customers, 100% of my customers were not in my ethnic group. 100%. That was an obstacle. When I went to get vendors to buy the equipment or to buy the chemicals, 100% of them were not in my ethnic group. Overcoming challenges, sir, is a part of life. What I did to do that is say, I don't care. I have a need, and I'm not going to leave here until you help me solve this need. I have the money. It's green. It's cashable. It's doable. I'm going to take it with me. I won't let you tell me no. And they said no. So I'd go to the next person, and I went to the next person until I found a yes. And I found a yes in the most oddest of places. The yes came from a Jewish gentleman who was some 25 years my senior. And I called on his company one day to buy some equipment, and he was amazed at the articulation at which I was speaking. And he said, come sit in my office. We talked. He says, you're not like most young men. And I had a big chip on my shoulder. I said, you mean I'm not like most Black men? He says, no, you're not like most young men that come in this office. Again, like Coach Long, powerful words to me. They edified me. They told me I was more than I thought I was. And I said, tell me more. He said, you're confident, you're secure, and I'm going to help you build your business. And I became a subcontractor for that gentleman. And we won business after business because people knew him and believed in him. And he would say, the sky is polka dot. And people would say, yes, sir, we believe it's polka dot. And that propelled us to do some things. So paying forward, mentoring, you and me, that's part of our DNA.
Yeah.
It's entwined in who we are. We can't
We
get rid
love we love to see people win. We don't want to do all the winning ourselves. We love to see people win. We want to put people in position to go further than we can go because it's a train of success. It's a line of succession. And so what are one of your career milestones that you're most proud of? Because there's a lot there, but what is something that when it happened, you just kind of looked up at the big guy upstairs and say, Father, I made it.
Okay. Calvin Coolidge, one of our presidents, once said, it's amazing how much you can accomplish if you don't care who gets the credit. It's amazing how much you can accomplish if you don't care who gets the credit. That day happened, let me get the year right. It was 1997. And we're doing the books for our annual financial result. And I'm looking in, the accountant is doing some calculating, and he's adding up stuff, and he hits the button, he erases it, and he pushes some more buttons very fast. And he says, I don't believe it, Randy. I said, well, what? And I'm thinking, man, I'm going to have to go get me another job. He says, your net worth is over $1 million. You are a bona fide millionaire. I'm thinking, my dad never made more than $50,000 a year in his life.
Wow.
Not that money drives anything, but that to me was some huge accomplishment. And I was never striving. See, that's the thing. I was never striving to get there or to do that. The Creator just happened to let that happen to me. And I was able to handle it. It didn't change me. I still shop at Walmart, and Dollar Store, you know. But at that moment, it hit me that I had a larger task on my shoulders. So much so that that day, you talk about attention to detail. My tagline on my emails, on my corporate email, is Luke 12:48. To whom much is given, much is required. That became my tagline from that day to this very day, because I understood this principle. Much has been given me. Therefore, much is going to be required from me.
Mm. Wow. That is, whew. To quote a very famous 21st century scholar, you started from the bottom, now you're here. You started from the bottom, now you're here.
Amen. Amen.
Now, you also have a very big passion for giving back. How did that start? What went into you? I know you have a passion for the Special Olympics, for Alzheimer's, and you do so many things in the community. You have feeding programs where you're feeding people during the pandemic. Like, where did that all start with you? Like, what's the driving force behind that?
I don't know if I can put my finger on it, but I'll tell you about it. Maybe you can help me sort it out. That's a great question. In my household, we were the house in the neighborhood that everybody came to. And dozens of times, I'd see people come to my dad and say, do you have $5 that I can get? Or can you run me up to the store? Now, I know that's not good English, but that means, can you get in the car and take me? Can you run me up to the store using his gas? Or can you come chop some wood for me? And so he poured into me to always be benevolent, help someone else. My mom was always cooking for other folk. More than she cooked for us. Man, she'd make the preacher this nice plate of fried chicken, and she'd give us chicken feet. I'm like, come on, seriously, you know. And so I would watch my mom and dad and just watch them. Then when I was in college, playing sports, one of the professors said, hey, we've got this meet coming up, and we need some volunteers. And I said, okay. And it was with the Special Olympics. And I'm thinking, you know, these guys, I don't really want to be around them. That's not me. And then win. You know, man, when I met them, their hearts, talk about athletes. Talk about having heart. You have never seen. And I would put any of those guys up against Michael Jordan, Tiger Woods, Terry Bradshaw, any of these guys. They have heart. Man, when I met them, I was sold.
Wow.
I was sold on them. And all they needed was a chance. All they needed was somebody to believe in them and just share with them. So that's where that started. As I got into the corporate world, Other colleges, smaller colleges, other smaller companies would have these different events, and I'd volunteer for them. Just volunteer, just to help, not being paid. Then we had soup kitchens. Then on Thanksgiving, Christmas, I'd actually get up early in the morning, go help feed the homeless, come back home and help my wife and family cook our dinner. Then go back out on Christmas Eve to this very day. To
Wow.
this very day, last Christmas, we selectively go out, my family, my wife, daughter, and I, and we have a pocket full of money, and we go into a restaurant and we observe, and we'll pick out someone who is working hard, who seems to not be making ends meet because they're having to work on Christmas Eve, Brother Sylvester,
Wow.
instead of being home with their kids or family. And so they'll come over and they'll say, yes, what can we get you? We said, oh, we just came in for a glass of water. We just need some water. And they're thinking, this is not going to be a big check. I guess I'm not getting a tip from them. And
You
they
went
bring
over there, you asked him for some water.
and they bring over a glass of water. And when they bring it over, we give them a $50 tip. And we say, thank you. God wants to bless you with this. And they say, who are you? And we tell them, doesn't matter who we are. We are unimportant. And we get up and we leave and we go to another restaurant. And we do that 4 or 5 times.
Wow.
Just to bless someone, just to encourage them that we don't want to take advantage of you. We want to tell you that the Creator is actually looking down on you. He hasn't forgotten you. He knows what you've been crying about. He knows what your hurt is. He knows what your pain is. He knows what your desire is. And he wants to let you know he loves you.
Wow.
And so we kind of share his love in that, because at the end of the day, he loves us just as much. We are just as imperfect, you and I. We are just as much as in need. We may dress it up a little bit better. We may speak it a little bit better. We may clean it up.
Yeah.
But when we compare ourselves to him, we're just as much as in need.
Yeah.
And so and he does not deny us.
Yeah.
So like Job said, who am I to deny someone in need?
You know what I love to say? I'm just a beggar that found bread, and I'm telling all the other beggars out there, this is where the bread is. I'm no better than you. I am no better than you.
Have you ever heard the song, I'm just a nobody trying to tell everybody about somebody who can save anybody? That's a song we used to sing in the country.
I love
I'm
it.
just a nobody trying to tell somebody about, trying to tell everybody about somebody who can save anybody.
Wow.
And that's
I
all
take
we
it
are.
I take it one step further. I always say, I am who I am because somebody loved me. Somebody tended to me. Somebody watched over me. Somebody hugged me when I was unhuggable. They loved me when I was unlovable, you know?
You sound like one of my favorite cartoons there. Well, that's Popeye. He said, I am what I am, and that's all that I am.
I love the spinach part. I love the spinach part, you know? Best advice you've ever received.
The best advice I've ever received is never, never give up, by Winston Churchill. I did not meet him, but I'm reading his book at a time in my life. I went through a divorce, and I didn't think very much of myself. I wanted my kids to grow up strong. I wanted to leave a legacy, and it was a very low point in my life. And I'm reading this book on World War II and Winston Churchill when he went back to Hargrove College, I think it was, where he went to Hargrove School for boys. And he was giving the commencement speech. And we say never, never give up, but actually his speech was never, never give in to the enemy. But we translated that, and never, never give up. And I read that, and I'm thinking, man, I can't give up now. So that's the best advice I've ever received, is never give up, because success, whatever you define success as, is just around the corner. Success is when you are about to give up if you go one more inch, one more second, one more person, one more sale, one more smile. Success will be there. But if you don't do just that one more thing, then you fail. So never
Wow.
give up. Don't give up on you. Don't give up
Wow.
on you. You are too valuable. You are too important to give up on. You
Wow.
really are. I know that. And if you don't know that, I'm going to be that until you do know that.
Mm.
I won't give up on you. Even if you give up on yourself, I won't give up on you.
Let me tell you something, Dr. Brooks. Stockholm, Paris, Romania, Ukraine, Yugoslavia, Czechoslovakia, Czech Republic, Azerbaijan, Saudi Arabia. These are all the cities that are listening to us right now. And it's profound. It is absolutely profound because we don't even do advertising in these cities. But I get these reports and I'm seeing all these cities and all these towns from all over the world. Bangladesh, Chennai, India, Kerala, India, you know, and I'm looking at this and I get notes from people and it's mind-boggling. And I could be wrong, but I don't believe I'm wrong. But I believe those words that you just spoke will reverberate in history and touch people in ways that we won't know. In lands far away from us, they will hear those words. What's your message to the world?
My message is to the world. We can make a difference. There's a thought process. Albert Einstein said, and I quote these people because they're much smarter than I am. And I like to read and I like to understand what the great scholars and theologians and thinkers of the world, past and present, think. And Albert Einstein, I'm paraphrasing, he said, you know, we live in a world of our own doing because we thought it. And it's going to take us changing our thoughts to change the world. We can change the world. If you don't like the way the world is, change it. My message to the world is let's change it. Listen, in the events that's happened in 2020, the world is shaking their head. The United States of America has fallen from grace with some of the antics and shenanigans that have happened on both sides of the aisle. I don't care whether you're Republican, Democrat, Independent, Tea Party, No Party, My Party, House Party. Don't care what you are. We have to get it together. My message to the world is that it's like in the book that I just wrote, We Are One, the institution of patriotism. Patriotism says, I will support my country all of the time. And I will support the government when necessary. You see, nationalism has been confused with patriotism. Nationalism says, it's all about me. I can self-govern. I can do what's right. I will do what's right for the country by whatever the leaders ask. If a leader asks me to be an insurrectionist, that's what I'll be. If they ask me to hold a Confederate flag, then that's what they'll do. But that's nationalism. It's all about me. I'm self-governing. That is not patriotism. I count it lost when someone of the antics on January 6th of 2021, they are called patriots? No, sir. They're not patriots. They are nationalists. I'm subscribing to the institution of patriotism. And that's my message to the world. And I do it unabashedly. I do it unashamedly. And I do it for the world. Because if we can change this mess, we can change the world. You see, the message is, may I give you just the equation?
Yes.
First, I'm going to look at myself. If I change myself, and we're talking about for the better, then I can change my family. If I change my family, then I can change my community. If I change my community, I can change my city. If I change my city, I can change my state. If I change my state, I can change my country. If I change my country, I can change the world.
That's profound.
It all begins with me. My mantra that I personally use, you've heard me say Luke 12:48. You've heard me talk about some other thing, but it's by that great preacher, Michael Jackson. He wrote a song called Man in the Mirror. Gonna make a change, gonna make a difference in my life. Who am I to decide who gets what? As I turn up my overcoat to stop the coldness, and I look at the beggar on the street, I'm talking to the man in the mirror. I'm asking him to make this change. No one could make it any clearer. If you want to make the world a better place, take a look at yourself and make the change.
I think what you're saying, two things I get from that. One is you're talking about personal responsibility, which is profound in and of itself, because human nature, we have a proclivity to, when something goes wrong, we want to cast off blame and put that on someone else. That's number one. Number two, one thing I see is you care. You care. You care about people that you don't even know. You care about countries you don't even know. You care about people. You know, the great Rabbi Joshua Heschel used to say, he said, indifference is the very thing that make even the angels weep. See, indifference to suffering, indifference to the poor, the working poor, indifference to people that are the left out and the people that are behind. It says what we do for the least of these. So he says the only thing worse than evil is indifference to evil. It is the very thing that makes even the angels weep.
You see, that's so profound, because we have to step outside of our box. We have to step outside of our comfort zone. We have to step outside of, watch this, our selfishness. For being indifferent, I could be indifferent and live a great life. I could be indifferent and not cause any ripples in the wave. I could be indifferent and not have anybody talk ill of me. But that's not our plight. You see, truth crushed to earth will rise again. The opposite of love is not hate. The opposite of love is indifference.
Wow, that is profound. That is profound. That is profound. Wow. Now, there was a gentleman, now that you say that, there was a gentleman I was just looking at where, let's see here. Victor Hugo. His name is Victor Hugo. And this is what he said. Very profound. He said, if the soul is left in darkness, sins will be committed. The guilty one is not the one who commits the sin, but he who causes the darkness. I'll say that again. If the soul is left in darkness, sins will be committed. The guilty one is not the one who commits the sin, but the one who caused the darkness. You see, we're living in COVID times now, and we sometimes forget that there's people hurting. They're hurting. The babies, we can't forget the babies, all babies, the Black babies, the Latino babies, the Native American babies, the Asian babies, the white babies, the European babies, the African babies, the Palestinian babies, the Israeli babies, but we can't forget the babies, the least of these. And that is the tradition that you are summoning. That is the call that you're saying is we can't just live in our crystal palaces and saying I'm okay while everybody's going to hell and their lives are falling apart and kids are going hungry. 40% of kids of color go to bed hungry in the richest democracy that the world has ever known. That's an affront to God. What you're saying is, no, we can come together and we can solve these problems. This is what the Coach Randy Institute is all about. That is what your institution is all about. Your institution is all about raising up the next generation so that when you're no longer here in this physical form, you are profligating, you are perpetuating, you are the progenitor of this legacy that you are living in the modern world.
I'd like to add on to that. Absolutely. Primarily, it's not just the next generation. I'm laying the foundation for this generation. This generation, here, now, present. We're laying the foundation for that. And then when I'm no longer here, they can pick it up and take it and move it and make it better. For we have to give them something to build on.
Yes.
If I wait for the next generation, it may or may not happen. So I have to take the responsibility. I have to be accountable. And if not now, when? If not me, who? If not now, when? If not me, who? That's my take on it.
I don't mean to wax philosophical, but Dr. Randy, what is the meaning of life?
Whoa. Hadn't thought in a question form, but the meaning of life is giving of oneself to the extent that there's nothing left to give. Live full, die empty. Giving of oneself to the extent that there's nothing left to give. We have an example of that in Jesus, the Christ of Nazareth. He gave of himself until there was nothing left to give. We have an example of that. Mahatma Gandhi. He gave of himself until there was nothing left to give. We have an example of that. Mother Teresa. She gave of herself until there was nothing left to give. We have an example of that. Malcolm X. He gave of himself until there was nothing left to give. We have example after example after example after example. We have an living example of that. Gibson, Sylvestre. He's giving of himself, and he's giving of himself, and he's giving of himself. Fortunately, there's still something there to give, but he's going to keep giving.
Amen.
Until there's nothing
Amen.
left.
And I see that, and I say the same to you, my brother, because when we get together, it's just a big love fest, man, because I just think the world of you, man, and I'm just so proud of you, man, in so many ways. So this is the part where it gets a little deep, and we're going to get deep into it now, in the sense that I want you to sit back and I want you to imagine your funeral. Everyone that loves you, your children, your wonderful bride, your minister, they're all there. And they're all there to eulogize you. They're all there to tell the world of a great man that walked on this planet. From the heart, what do you want them to say about you?
What I'd like them to say is, don't remember Randy for the things he's done. Don't remember Randy for the things he's accomplished. Don't remember Randy for being a speedster on the track. Don't remember Randy for trying out for the NFL and lasting 2 weeks. Don't remember Randy for becoming the first African-American male to grace the halls of AT&T as a national account manager. Don't remember Randy for accomplishing some millionaire goals. Don't remember Randy for speaking on stage. Don't remember Randy for meeting with presidents and kings and queens. Don't remember Randy for all the good things he's done for charity. Remember Randy that he served, and he served with all his heart. And at the end of the day, whether he made $1 or $100 million doing it, he would do it just the same, because he understood, to whom much is given, much is required. And what he's been given is life eternal. And he took that seriously. And so therefore, he could never pay that debt back, but he could try. And he has tried. So let us send him home where he can say, thank you, Jesus. And where he'll hear, well done, thy good and faithful servant.
Profound. I have a feeling that you've thought about this before, because our good friend Stevie Covey used to say, begin with the end in mind. And I think any worthwhile endeavor always begins with looking at the end and kind of retroactively working back, or reverse engineering, as you would say, you know. And who's top 3 books that have influenced you?
Top one is the Holy Scriptures. Without
Amen.
Without any close second. The next one is called The University of Success by Og Mandino. And the third one, let me think back through the thousands and thousands and thousands, is The 5 Love Languages by Gary Smalley.
Gary Chapman. Yeah, Gary Chapman. Yeah. I love that one. And what's your love language?
I am, what they call?
Words of affirmation.
No.
Physical touch. Physical touch.
Physical touch, yeah.
Oh, yeah. You know, I've heard it said that a lot of men always tell their wives that's their love language, but we'll leave it at that. Honey, my love tanks.
My love language is calling. She'll say, take out the garbage.
Acts of service. Top 3 musical artists.
Top 3 musical artists.
Tupac is one. I'm joking.
Marvin Gaye. Sam Cooke. And Stevie Wonder.
Oh, man. Classics. Biggest fear in your life.
Fear. Okay. Biggest fear. is not accomplishing what I set out to do.
Awesome. Greatest source of joy.
Watching my wife and my daughter smile.
Proudest accomplishment.
Becoming a father.
That's profound. That's profound. First thing you grab in the morning.
Toothbrush.
I'm happiest when.
I'm happiest when I'm doing something for someone else.
My favorite athlete is.
My favorite athlete is Gail Sayers.
Tell us about him, because a lot of people won't know who that is.
Chicago Bears. Gail Sayers went with Brian Piccolo back when Chicago Bears were a powerhouse. And this guy was too small. He was skinny, and I played football. I was too small. He became a hero to me. But this guy was sweet. They called him Sweetness, much before Walter Payton was called Sweetness. And Gail Sayers had this uncanny ability to run and know who was going to tackle him, when, and escape being tackled and make touchdowns. But just the amount of heart he played with. And you'll see that theme run through my life. You've got to have heart. And that's what I'm telling you guys. I think Gail Sayers had heart. Yes, he was talented. Yes, he was fast. But this man played with heart. In other words, he took the responsibility of the team on his back. And he says, we will win as a result of me playing. And so did the other team members. But he exemplified this, and he raised up other members of that team. And he was a quiet and soft-spoken person, not like one of my other favorite athletes, Muhammad Ali, who said, I'm the greatest. Sonny Liston, I'm going to knock you out because you're too ugly to be champion.
What's the first thing people notice about you?
Probably the smile in my eyes.
What's the first thing you want people to notice about you?
It's something you can't see. It's something you have to feel, and that's sincerity.
What's your vice? What's your vice?
My vice is tardiness. I hate tardiness. I like being on time, but that's not really the vice. My vice, potato chips.
I thought you was going to say racing or speeding, but what's your greatest strength?
Greatest strength, being on time.
Greatest weakness?
I have a short fuse that I'm working on.
Okay. What is your superpower? What is your superpower?
My superpower is I can leap tall buildings in a single bounds. I can fly faster than a plane or a speeding bullet. I know what I know when I know it and before I'm supposed to know it. I have a superpower of discernment that's been given me, that I can get inside someone's head, brain, heart, and guide them to where they need to be.
Wow. And favorite car?
My favorite car is, you see behind me, or the chair I'm sitting in, is red and black. I'll move my head. There's a little Corvette
yes
symbol there. And I just purchased for myself the 2020 C8 mid-engine Corvette. That's my favorite car.
Wow, I seen that one. Man, you do you have a lead foot?
Not in that one, because I need to get to where I'm going. That thing will go 250 miles an hour without blinking.
Oh my goodness, that is crazy. Best age to be?
Now, watch this one. This is going to be great. And I love you, Gibson, because folks out there, before I answer this, we have not rehearsed any of these questions. So know that I'm going to call him and get him when we finish this interview, because he's getting me. I mean, he can sit there and laugh and with that big smile in, I'm going to get him. Okay. We haven't practiced the best age to be the age you are right now.
I love that. Love or money? If you had to choose between love or money.
Undoubtedly, love.
I love cats or dogs? Cats or dogs?
Oh man, come on! It's got to be dog. Everybody knows dogs. Come on. What kind of question is that? I mean, that's hands down.
Best friend. Best friend
is a guy I've known for some 30 years, and we don't talk every day, every week, every month. Weller is his name, and we can call each other right now and pick up as though no time has ever elapsed.
Happiest moment?
Happiest moment is when I wake up in the morning. I said, "Thank you, Jesus. I'm here one more day."
Amen. A good friend of mine says he wakes up and he reaches up. If he doesn't feel a casket, he knows it's going to be a good day. Biggest risk you ever took?
Starting my company when I'm 30 years old and not knowing how I was going to do it, where I was going to go, even if it would succeed, but I knew that I had to try.
I love it. You have 1 hour left. How are you going to spend that 1 hour?
Calling everybody I know and telling them it's been a heck of a ride. and that I love you. And I hope you do something with what's left of your life. Tim McGraw, a country western singer, has a song out, Live Like You Were Dying. And folks, if you haven't heard that song, Google it, play it, listen to the words. And that's what I do. If I had 1 hour left, I'd live like I was dying.
Best money advice?
Earn it. Save it. Spend on necessity. Invest it. And give some of it away because it was never yours to begin with.
Coach, Doc, one of America's finest coaches for success, Randy Brooks. CoachRandyBrooks.com. That's CoachRandyBrooks.com. And ladies and gentlemen, this is not the last you've heard of him. This is not the end. This is only the end of the beginning. You will see him again and again. One of my favorite quotes of all time. Ralph Waldo Emerson once said, "The greatest gift you can give is a portion of yourself." Coach Randy, thanks for giving a full bucket of yourself. Thanks for pouring yourself out and giving the world something that I know that they will cherish and cherish for a long time. Your wisdom, your humor, your wit, your pain is your power. Your trials is your superpower. Thank you for being who you are. Thank you for being a force for good and of good in the modern world today. Thanks for being a light and not hiding your light in this very dark world. It's been an honor, and we will do this again. Thank you very much. God bless you, everybody.
God bless you.
Thanks for listening. Please go to GibsonSylvestre.com/podcast to subscribe. Thank you for being a part of my listening family.